What's the one thing Spider-Man can't eat? Uncle Ben's rice. I've rounded up some recent comic books and superheroes into my collection to share with you in Lassoed Loot Volume 275. Welcome to today's video. This series formerly was called Comic Book Editions, now rebranding as Lassoed Loot, but keeping the same legacy numbering. There's several comic books like Wonder Woman Volume 1 and Uncanny X-Men Volume 1 whose issues 275 are favorites of mine to reread, so I thought the video 275 would be a perfect one to rebrand. In today's video, I have a comic book that I don't know anyone who has a comic book like the one that I'm going to share with you. I'm excited to bring that to you later on. I have some Bronze Age Marvel to get today's video kicked off, like Daredevil, Volume 1, Issue 118, that was released in 1974. We have a John Romita cover. Gerry Conway was the writer of the story, and Don Heck did the interior art. At this point, Daredevil is splitting his time between New York and California. In this particular issue, he's back in New York. Some footage is taken of him that's shown to the Ringmaster. The Ringmaster has a diabolical plan set up, and he figures we need to take Daredevil out because he could maybe stand in the way of accomplishing their goal. So he sics the Circus of crime on Daredevil. This era of Daredevil is the one I'm collecting. Black Widow started as a guest star and then eventually became a co-headliner in this title. So 83 to I think issue 124 are the Black Widow appearances, and those are the ones that I'm trying to add into my collection. And I have another one that I'm able to checkmark off the list now. But I didn't stop there because we have Daredevil, Volume 1, Issue 120. Now it's a Gil Kane cover. Tony Isabella is the writer for this story, and William Robert Brown does the interior art. It's a year later, 1975. Daredevil is in California. He's back to CA in this story. I kind of call this the love issue because Matt Murdock arrives at the airport to get Black Widow Natasha. Hydra is at the airport causing trouble, so the two of them defeat Hydra, and then they go to have a serious talk about their relationship. At one point, when they're done talking, they have to go to a party that Foggy Nelson is holding, and Natasha's not happy about that because he prosecuted her way back in Daredevil issue 83, and she still holds the resentment feelings towards that. But by the end of the story, Black Widow has made the decision that she needs to relocate back to New York City, even if it's without Matt. This issue has a particular sad story attached to it, though. Granted, I didn't pay much money for it, but the Marvel value stamp was cut out of this issue, and it does affect the story. So had I known that, I wouldn't have bought it. Now knowing it, it's on a list of books that I already want to replace into my collection. Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man. This is annual number 1 from 1979. So Rich Buckler is the cover and interior artist, and then Bill Mantlo is the writer for the story. This takes place between Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man issues 37 and 38. I added those into my collection in Comic Book Editions Volume 133. What I didn't know about this story is it's a continuation from the Amazing Spider-Man annual of the same year, which was ASM Annual number 13. So he starts the battle with Doc Ock in that story, and apparently, from what I picked up from just reading this half of the story, a set of Doc Ock's arms had broken off. So it's Doc Ock wanting to get the arms back and Spider-Man investigating the arms a little bit. And once Doc Ock does get the arms back, he's going after a military submarine. Does Doc Ock end up drowning? They want you to think that by the cliffhanger of the story. But a year later, he'll end up making an appearance in Marvel's Daredevil issue number 165. A lot of times I seem to forget to add these annuals into my collection. My goal is to get Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man issue 1 through 126. 126 is where I stopped as an original childhood collector, plus the first 4 annuals. And I always seem to forget about getting the annuals. This time I was able to add in the 2 annuals that I needed. This is annual number 80 from 1980. Jim Mooney does the interior art. Ralph Macchio is the writer. This takes place between Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man issues 51 and 52. Those I added into my collection in a Spectacular Spider-Hall video of Comic Book Editions, Volume 136. This story is kind of unforgettable, to be honest with you, so I'm not going to focus a whole lot about this, but I'm going to tell you what happened to me when I was at Cowabunga Comics. When I go to Cowabunga Comics, I always go and look at the Spectacular Spider-Man comic books. Their back issue inventory is always changing, and 101 is the one I'm looking for because I'm missing it. It's that great John Byrne cover with the black suit. So I kept forgetting when I was in there to go back and look, kept forgetting. I remembered I headed back there and someone had issue 101 in their hands, and it was on top of a pile of comic books that they were carrying, and I could see it was within my price range too. No! No. I mean, I know Cowabunga will eventually get restocked with another copy, and hopefully I can pick it up then, but oh, I was so close. 101, as a matter of fact, is the only thing I'm missing now. Once I pick up 101, I'll have issues 1 through 126 plus the first 4 annuals, which was my goal in collecting Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man. I also want to go on to say how impressed I was with what good reads these stories are still even decades after they were originally published. Good stuff here for sure. I want to turn over to the DC side of my loot right now with Doom Patrol Volume 1, Issue 124, published in 1973. This is a reprint of Doom Patrol Issue 90 that originally was released in 1964. Bob Brown cover, Arnold Drake is the writer. So in Doom Patrol 121, they killed off the Doom Patrol, and they said, okay, write in if you want the Doom Patrol back. And I guess they didn't get enough letters or support because they ended up canceling the comic book with this title. 121 was the last original story where they killed the Doom Patrol. That's one I would like to get into my collection at some point. And then the next 3 issues, including this one, were all reprints. And by this time they said, well, I guess the support isn't there, and we're canceling the book. Isn't that wild? This story tells the Doom Patrol versus their arch enemies, the Brotherhood of Evil. But what you might have noticed already with this comic book is what I was talking about at the beginning of today's Lassoed Loot video. I don't know anybody who has a copy of a comic book that appears to have been used in a court case. Look at the sticker on the bottom. Defendant's Exhibit 549. So here I was thinking that this comic book, the only story I was getting out of it was the Doom Patrol versus Brotherhood of Evil story. I wish this comic book could talk and tell me the story of the court case that it was involved in. I wish there was a way that I could research this online and figure out what happened and how this ended up being evidence. All the questions that I have boggles my mind. Do you know anyone who's ever had a comic book that you knew ended up being part of a court case? Definitely leave me a comment below. Do you think that this is cool? This is so wild and so out there. And I didn't know I mail ordered this from eBay. I was buying a comic book on eBay, and I always look to see if the seller has anything else to, maximize shipping. And I added this in here. And I think they had a stock image. So I didn't know this was going to have this on there. And it has given me a mystery that the Scooby-Doo gang might not even be able to solve. Oh, this comic book definitely has more than just the one story. Another Bronze Age comic book. I picked this one up because I loved the cover. So the cover was done by Dick Giordano. No surprise, I'm a huge fan of his. Gerry Conway was the writer, and Joe Staton, another favorite of mine, did the interior art on Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, issue number 258, volume 1. This is 1979. This is the last issue that's billed as Superboy and the Legion of Superheroes, because the next issue, it would just become Legion of Superheroes, and they would continue the legacy numbering. In this story, the Legion discovers that the president of Earth has been siphoning funds to rebuild the planet just before they're attacked by a villain called the Psycho Warrior. I love Saturn Girl's pink outfit, which is heavily on display on this cover, which is probably the main reason why I wanted to add this into my collection. And one more to share with you in this Lassoed loot. This falls under the category, as John's Comics with Friends would say, of don't yuck the yum. This might be someone's favorite comic book. It definitely was not mine. I don't think you hear me talk very negatively a lot or frequently in my videos, but this one It's a one-shot from 1998 written by Peter David. Did not live up to it for me. I had known about this book, and especially at the time that it was out, and went, well, that's not my Wonder Woman. I'm not interested in that. But in the completist that I've become in the decade since, I was like, oh, yeah, let's just get it and read it and just to have it into the collection. That was a mistake. So there's this creature whose name is Wanda. And then Lori Loomis and her cameraman ambush Bug. Over here, this creature named Wanda say, I am Wanda, girl. And they assume she said she's Wonder Girl, which eventually turned into Wonder Woman, which is how she got her name. I did like the fact that there was like this Super Friends costume-themed resort and casino in the backdrop in Las Vegas, and Beast Boy did make an appearance, but the majority of this issue was not for me. I don't ever see me picking up this book to read again. It was a downer for me. Sorry if this was one that you love in your collection. This one just didn't work for me. A comic book that did work for me is the one that I featured as my back issue of the week. Dropped that short yesterday. For Women's History Month, we're doing female themed. And this year being the 5th consecutive year, I'm trying to do like girl groups or teams. And I have A-Force, which is a Marvel title with the ladies of Marvel all together in one. It was a tie-in to one of their previous summer events. But I talk all about the comic book in the back issue of the week that dropped yesterday morning. If you haven't had a chance to check that out, I certainly hope that you would. Fanboys Live and the Retro Review is on the way this Sunday night with Signature King Tony Fett. It's the greatest DC comic show on YouTube, 8:15 p.m. Central, 8:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Central. I've only done the show for how many years? You think I would know the time here on my YouTube channel, and I hope that you can make it. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. That certainly is appreciated, and give the video a thumbs up, a like, a heart. Thanks for making it to the end of this Lassoed loot, where I'm roping in the finest in comic books and collectibles. I'll catch you for our next edition next week. Until then, take care and bye for now.